All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. What a crazy day today. Just absolutely insane in terms of what happened with the price action. Tnxp stock, 40 cents a share. Now, this thing hit $1.94 in the pre-market. I was up this morning, and I stepped away from my computer for probably 10 or 15 minutes. It was trading above $1 almost. It got halted, and then once it got halted and it came back online, we're trading over $1.35. So I step away for a minute, and I take a breather. Okay, I kid you not, by the time I came back, it had traded up to $1.90, $1.94, and then sold back off. Okay, so that's the crazy part. With that being said, this thing has basically 10x'd in price from where we talked about it. And so if you were able to take profits today, congratulations. I have been kind of feeling very all over the place with this thing because this is a stock that traded over 1 billion shares today on news that they are going to be basically accepted for FDA review. Now, when you're accepted for FDA review, keep this in mind, and we've talked about this already on the channel, but there's NDA acceptance and then there's FDA approval. So FDA approval is actually when this thing can start being sold and marketed as a drug for fibromyalgia. Okay, so this drug, right, the TNX 102SL, once it can actually start being marketed and sold, that will be FDA approval. But we have to remember that this is only NDA acceptance, new drug application acceptance with the FDA. So since it's being accepted with the FDA, what this basically means is we can now wait for the approval of the FDA. And if we get the approval, it's going to be very bullish for the stock. But the one major risk you have to keep in mind is that if the FDA does not approve this, then it can be absolutely devastating for the sentiment of the stock and everything else. Now, in the short term, this thing was such a wild card today. It was hard to say which way it was going to go. And the fact that, within 15 minutes, this thing basically rallied up the charts in the pre-market. As you can see, hitting over $1.95 right there. And if we click on this chart, we can look at it here. You can see just what, going to the 7-day chart, I guess you could look at as well. In the actual open of the market, it hit basically $1.30 and then sold all the way down to $33.5. In the post-market, we actually rallied up above 40 cents. We rallied almost to pretty much 50 cents in the post-market. So that kind of gives a glimmer of hope in terms of, people who bought this thing above $1. And somebody actually posted that there is over $100 million worth of stock, or 100 million, basically that was traded above $1 today. And so that may tell you by itself that this thing could really, take back off again, right? The volume was insane today, 1 billion shares, but we had a lot of volume traded above $1. You can call those people bag holders if you want, but apparently there's also a lot of dark pool volume, so a lot of off-exchange volume taking place. Now, there's a lot of risk with a stock like this. Keep that in mind. I mean, we've seen massive volatility today. $1.95 all the way down to 35 cents is extreme volatility, and also on very high volume. 1 billion shares traded, just as we traded yesterday. And when you figure in the pre and post market trades, we actually did in fact trade over 1 billion shares. So this is a stock that you have to always remember with any kind of penny stock. We talk about cryptocurrencies on this channel. Always consult with a financial advisor if needed, or somebody who you may want to talk to. Fibromyalgia affects more than 10 million people, and so if approved, this can be the first new drug for treating fibromyalgia in over 15 years, and the first member of a new class of analgesic drugs for the condition. So, supported by 2 phase 3 studies, Relief and Resilient, evaluated TNX 102SL safety and efficacy, however you pronounce that. Basically, both trials met their primary endpoints, demonstrating a statistical reduction in daily pain compared to placebo. So, this is the big, roll of the dice. If this thing gets FDA approved and we see this thing go to the moon, that would be great. But we're still looking at this positive news today as NDA acceptance. We still have to get the FDA approval. And if we get that in 2025, this thing could really take off again. Now, this thing could take off in the meantime in the short term. There's no real telling where this goes. When you look at the number of posts on this thing, it's still posting You can see people still talking about it, even though it's like past 8 o'clock tonight, Central Time. So when the market opens at 4 or 5 in the morning, you could really see this thing, $4 pre-market right there. I mean, come on. We're talking, 1,000% in the pre-market? I'm going to give that a heart, but I'm sorry, guys. I just don't know if we're going to see $4 in the pre-market. We saw $1.95 this morning, but people started taking profits above $1.50. They really started to dump, and that's what caused, ultimately, I think also with people shorting it at those prices. But I also saw something about a short sale restriction going on this stock, basically where you can only short sale on an uptick for the next couple of days due to the dramatic decline from where we were trading earlier, down under 10% or over 10% from the previous close. And so now there's going to be a short sale, or SSD, I think it is, something like that, short sale, or SSR, short sale restriction, where you can only short sale on an uptick for the next couple of trading days. So that'll be interesting how that works. We're setting ourselves up for the long term here less than a minute ago. There's a lot of people who are bullish on this stock. Now, if you're bearish on this stock, keep in mind, this is not for everybody, right? You might be a short seller. You might be somebody who does not want shareholders to win, right? Shareholders to do well, bulls to do well. At the same time, there's always going to be bulls and bears. And so somebody's going to be right in the end. This stock could go to zero. This stock could 10x. This stock could go up to $4 a share. This stock could rip past $2. We hit $1.94 this morning in the pre-market. And in fact, I think I had the chart pulled up here. In fact, if you look at the open, this does not show the pre-market trading, but $1.30 all the way down to basically 32 cents, 33 cents. Absolutely insane. But actually, if you look at the true trading this morning, around 6, 7 a.m. in the morning, $1.94. So that's where we traded this morning. And if you look at the next gap fill on the chart, we're still looking at a $2 per share fill. Excuse me. We're still looking at a $2 per share fill. And then we go back above 2 to 3 all the way up to, if we look at the next fill on the chart, the next gap would be $3.22. And so if this thing were to go parabolic, we could easily see those gaps get filled. Now, on the downside risk, it all comes down to FDA approval. Now, people will try to spin it any way they want and say, there's all these other factors involved. Look, the company has to find a way to raise money and stay afloat during this time period. They have to find a way to get back in NASDAQ compliance. There's a lot of risk involved with that as well. Do they end up doing a reverse split? Does it get there organically? Can we get back above $1? People are saying in the next day or two. With the volatility we've seen and the volume we've seen, I would not discount it. I would not discount a move back above $1, back above $2, whatever, in the short term. It never actually got above $2, but it was $1.94. And so the question is, how high can it get beyond that price? And it really comes down to, of course, supply and demand. And so if you're looking at a price that was just trading under 50 cents a couple days ago, even under 20 cents for a while at 19 cents, and it really had trouble breaking those prices. Now we're trading at 40 cents. So we've more than doubled, and people are still disappointed, right? But the fact is, when we were trading at 19, 20 cents, people only wanted it to break above 40 to 50 cents and they'd be happy. Well, now we're trading above, $1.90 this morning. People are still not satisfied. So the question is, you have to take profits at some point, right? Whether I took profits today or not, is it, it's up to you to do what you want with your portfolio, right? I talked, in one of my videos about a 10x being from, under 20 cents to $2 a share. That is about 1,000%. So keep that in mind whenever you're thinking about taking profits and where you're thinking about selling. A lot of people did take profits above $1.50 today, and that's the sell-off we saw. But, with this, over the next few months, I think what's really going to determine where this goes and whether or not this can actually reach, let's say, $1 billion market cap would be this FDA approval. Now, if that happens, who knows? The sky could be the limit, $5, $10, $15. But just remember, we're not there yet. NDA acceptance was great news, but we still have to get through that final approval phase, and that's ultimately what's going to determine, if we can get to that large valuation. But with that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video on Tonix Pharmaceuticals. As you can see, we rallied in the pre-market about 21%. So let's see what happens tomorrow morning going into the next market open. And God bless you all, and we'll see you in the next video. Stay safe out there and take care.